want to do something that strengthens America's leadership. But I just think that we can't sit here and assume that because America is today the leader, that it will always get to be the leader if we don't innovate. And innovation means doing new things. Okay. And that does mean, and the new things have risks, and we need to address the risks, and we need to be careful in doing that.
That was Mark Zuckerberg, of course, yesterday on the Hill speaking about Libra and how Facebook plans on addressing the concerns of lawmakers. In a letter to the Anchorage Trust Company, Republican Senator Mike Rounds is sounding the alarm over cracking down on cryptocurrency. Senator Rounds writes, in his words, I write regarding concerns recently expressed by a number of my colleagues about involvement in the Libra Association. It's profoundly disappointing that my colleagues chose to address your peers in such an ominous tone, which I fear may put a chill on innovation in the long run. I believe that there is promise in cryptocurrencies and digital payments, but regardless of how one views such technologies, it's clear the United States is falling behind in this space. Senator Rounds joins us now. He serves on the Banking Committee. Would you say that more senators they have your viewpoint, Senator, are most fairly worried about? I guess we won't be able to control currency and dollars, and they do look at it as an ominous development where the government's, I think, losing control. Is that it?
I think most members of the Senate, once they've had an opportunity to learn what cryptocurrency is all about, I think at that point then they'll ask questions. But I think there's a lack of information right now about what cryptocurrency is, and I think that's what's driving the mistrust. I think we have to be able to explain a little bit about the technology, and I'm not a techie guy, but I do understand that if you use new technologies, and cryptocurrencies do use that, they use a technology called blockchain, and in doing so, there are some real benefits to using it, but it's also a very efficient way of delivering services to consumers that might not otherwise have banking opportunities. And the rest of the world has figured that out. The United States is behind other parts of the world in using blockchain technology and in trying to figure out a way to appropriately regulate it. I don't think you walk away from innovation because you don't have a good regulatory process. We haven't really updated this part of the law since 1933. It's about time we do, and to warn companies that are trying to innovate that because we're not in a position to regulate them, that they should stop the innovation, seems to me to be an inappropriate response. And companies like Anchorage out of South Dakota right now have done their best to work with regulators, and they found a way to participate in this new technology. I want to see that continue in the United States and not migrate to other parts of the world. I'd like to be a part of that financial services delivery system in the future.
Well, I'm not sure what happened yesterday. I mean, in a show of rare bipartisanship, everybody hates Facebook. You got the Democrats blame Facebook for losing 2016 election. The conservatives think that everything that's on the site is anti-conservative, and it all bleeds over into the discussion about Libra. And I mean, I watched some of the testimony, some of the usual suspects that love to grandstand with just hyperbolic comments when the camera's on. They were all there in full, in all their glory yesterday, too. I mean, I felt bad. Mark Zuckerberg's like, where am I think? And they wonder why I don't like to show it these things.
Look, what we've got right now is a new technology. Facebook is part of it, but they're not the only members. And there are other financial organizations out there right now that recognize that if the rest of the world is doing this, we've got to decide whether or not we want to have an appropriate regulatory process.
Senator, was about privacy yesterday. That's what it looked like. It sort of descended into an issue about what shows up on Facebook's site. Was it 50% Libra in digital discussion yesterday, would you say, or did it seems like it descended right into the privacy issue?
Well, I have to be honest with you. That occurred in the House, and in the Senate, we don't pay a whole lot of attention to what they're doing in the House right now. They go off and they do their own thing on it. But in the Senate, we're trying to pay attention to the day-to-day activities that have to be done, and the operation of government is one of them. But the regulatory processes that we put in place have a real impact on our ability to be financial leaders in the future. We can't sit back and allow other nations, such as China, which will be rolling out a real significant blockchain technology system platform in the next month or so. we can't simply sit back and allow other countries to develop it. And if so, we're going to have the financial processes start to move out of our country and into those places where they're actually doing a better job of regulating than what we are.
Your sense, if you were to look at a centralized coin or stable coin, whatever you want to describe Libra as, versus a Bitcoin or something that is completely decentralized, how do you think about those two things separately? The reason I ask is, to me, Libra is actually quite controllable. Bitcoin is completely uncontrollable.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because part of the neat thing about any type of a chain in the middle of this thing here, as we're working our way through, this is something that we can actually regulate and we can work with. And the organization, Libra, has actually offered to try to work with us to develop the appropriate type of a regulatory process in place. Law enforcement has a lot more of an opportunity, if you're talking about blockchain technology, to being able to follow through and to follow financial transactions, rather than the way that things are set up right now with other cryptocurrencies. But remember, our goal here is not to pick winners and losers within this innovative approach that's being used by a number of different companies. It's rather to lay out what the groundwork should be, the framework should be, and then allow the companies to be able to innovate as long as they follow a set of new regulatory processes that allow us to figure out who the bad guys are and whether or not they're illegally moving money around, whether it be for inappropriate activities.
I was thinking about asking the same question, just in the sense that, do you think Libra is actually more attractive to people like you and government because it's based on the dollar? Because I don't really think any government wants to lose control, as you say, of the currency. So I think, in that way, maybe, if you guys are looking to just in your own self-interest, Libra might be better than Bitcoin, which seems like you're not going to, that's already, the cat's out of the bag, toothpaste out of the tube.
The blockchain technology that Libra would be based on does not necessarily mean that it would be centralized. It does mean that you would have a platform that could use a new technology that we could still regulate, but it has a lot of the benefits that you also find in other cryptocurrencies.
I thought Republicans didn't like regulation.
Limited regulations, fair playing field only.
Kind of like, is that not an oxymoron? All right, no, it's not. You're right. Senator, thank you. Great to have you on from the Capitol today. We'll see you.